The Canadian Mining Hall of Fame would like to thank our legacy sponsor, Franco-Nevada. Franco-Nevada Corporation is the leading gold-focused royalty and streaming company with the largest and most diversified portfolio of cash flow-producing assets. Its business model provides investors with gold price and exploration optionality while limiting exposure to cost inflation.
Franco-Nevada is honored to sponsor the Canadian Mining Hall of Fame. We congratulate this year's inductees and are proud of all our directors who are members of the Hall of Fame.
Ladies and gentlemen, your Master of Ceremonies, Anthony Vaccaro.
All right, let's get our seats, everybody. I know it's hard to pull away from these great conversations, but we do have an amazing gala evening to get going, and we want to keep it timely. Pretty good. I think this is actually a record for people sitting down. All right, good evening, everyone. As the voice of God said, my name is Anthony Vaccaro. I am going to be your Masters of Ceremonies for this evening. As the president of the Northern Miner Group and also a proud director of the Canadian Mining Hall of Fame, I'm honored to welcome all of you to the 38th Annual Canadian Mining Hall of Fame Induction Ceremony. Going to be a whale of a night, I'll tell you that. We're excited to celebrate the achievements of this year's 4 newest inductees. Gord Morrison. The Gord contingency is strong tonight. Don Lindsay. Catherine McLeod-Seltzer. And David Harquail. I don't need to tell you that these 4 individuals are pillars of the mineral exploration and mining community, but we're going to really get into their stories. We're going to delve into their distinguished careers. We're going to share them over the course of the evening. Now, though, I would like to recognize that the land we are gathered on here tonight, the Metro Toronto Convention Centre, is built on land that has been and is under the stewardship of many Indigenous peoples, including the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, the Wendat, and the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. Canadian mining is proportionally the largest private sector employer of Indigenous people nationwide. Our sector has engaged in more than 500 active agreements with Indigenous communities, and these agreements chart a powerful path towards economic reconciliation, something we can all be proud of. It's my great pleasure, to introduce our sustaining sponsor this evening. We're so grateful for their support, which enables us to keep our stories alive and as we honor the best of our industry. Please stand as I give us a wave as I call your name. Our legacy sponsor is Franco-Nevada, and we are honored to be joined tonight by Paul Brink, President and CEO. Paul. Our visionary sponsors are Agnico Eagle Mines. Thank you, Agnico. The Barrick Mining Corporation. And from Hatch, we're joined by Andrea De Mori. He is Global Managing Director of Metals. Thank you, Andrea. We're also supported by Allied Gold Corporation. And there's the camera for you, Jonathan. And from Teck, Jonathan Price, President and CEO. Thank you, Jonathan. Because of your ongoing support, we're able to recognize these distinguished leaders and champion the important contributions Canadian mining makes to our prosperity. Thank you so much for your generosity. Okay, everybody, dinner's going to be served shortly, so you can get back to your conversations. Have a great meal. Buon appetito. Ciao.
Thank you to our visionary sponsor, Barrick Mining Corporation. Barrick is a leading global mining, exploration, and development company with one of the largest portfolios of world-class and long-life gold and copper assets in the industry. Thank you to Barrick for hosting tonight's VIP reception.
Ladies and gentlemen, your Master of Ceremonies, Anthony Vaccaro.
Thank you. As they say in Italian, benvenuti a tutti. That means welcome to all of you to the big night. It really is a big night. Carries a lot of weight. Many of you have flown in from far-flung places across the country to be in Toronto on a weeknight on a January. That speaks to the magnitude of this event. The other sectors have Hall of Fame galas. I've been to a couple of them, and I can tell you, they ain't nothing like this. Only in mining. I think it might have something to do with our size, right? We're a pretty small community. It's not very big. We span the globe, but we keep running into familiar faces when we're at the airport. I mean, I was just in the cocktail reception, and people, conversations were picking up so effortlessly from where they left off a year ago. Even acquisitions are all friendly these days. It's like there's no hostile in this community. I don't know what to think about that as a former journalist. It's less to write about, but anyway, it's good. I think what I'm trying to say is we have the benefit of this great base of familiarity in the sector. And familiarity, the word familiarity, is not that far off from the word family. So what I propose, my humble proposal for tonight, is that we all double down on this feeling. And we strive to see everyone in this room tonight as a member of a big extended family. A family where some members you only see once a year. Some members you feel very proud of. Others you try really hard not to sit beside at dinner. That's okay. That's okay. It's like a real family. There's no judgment. But if we can do this, as a sector, we're going to be better. We're going to be stronger. Because we'll remember we're all on the same side. And in these crazy times, we're all living through together. That's something special, right? That's my hope. That's my hope for tonight anyway, with regards to our mining family. But then we all have our actual families, and oh boy, those come in all sorts of different emotional shapes and sizes. But at their best, a family member can be like a rocket booster to a great career, right? They can deliver that reprimand that we don't want to hear, but we kind of need to hear. Or they can give us that needed edge. In my own personal case, I'm going to confess something here tonight. because I don't want to carry this around anymore. And I'm going to get this off my back. I don't want to be ashamed of it. My family gave me a big competitive advantage. It was through my grandfather, of all people, who introduced me to the power of LSD. Yeah? LSD. Lasagna, spaghetti, and double espresso. It works. It works. I don't care if you judge me. Judge me all you want. I'm telling you it works. I highly recommend it. So we're going to get going from here. All right? We're going to start with actual family. Specifically, actual family that shares seats in the Hall of Fame. Because out of 212 Hall of Fame members, there are some family connections. And I'm going to list them for you. We have a grandfather and a grandson, Bill Roscoe and Harry Roscoe. Bill's over at the Northern Minor table tonight. Bill. We have husbands and wives. We have Mary Edith and Joseph Tyrrell. We actually have 2 sets. And we have George and Kate Carmack. We have an uncle and a nephew, Noah Timmins and Jules Timmins. And we have only one set of brothers, Richard and Norman Pierce. I spent more time on this one for a reason. Yes, huge. Richard, he's known as Dick. Dick and Norman were the forefathers of the Northern Miner, which is why I spent more time on that photo. And they also happen to be the great uncles of the chair of the Mining Hall of Fame, Deb McCombe. So really great family connection there. And then we have fathers and sons. We have Jim Gill and James Edward Gill. Bill James and William Fleming James. And for our Teck friends here, we have Norman Bell Keevil and Norm Keevil Jr. And all of that, yes, my friends, all of that is building to something, because it brings us to tonight. Because tonight marks a first with the induction of Catherine McLeod-Seltzer. This is the first time. It's going to get better. It's going to get better. It is the first time a father and a daughter will both be members of the Canadian Mining Hall of Fame. Catherine joins her father, the late, great Don McLeod, in the hall. Now, later tonight, we are going to show some videos, right, that dive into the careers of these 4 individuals, but I wanted to give you all a bit more color, right? This is the kind of non-video material. So I reached out to people closest to them to try and get a bit of the skinny. For Catherine, it was her brother, who many of you know, Bruce McLeod. Bruce, over there at Catherine's table, he helped me out with a few tales. All right, Catherine, you ready? The first one has Catherine inviting a friend to dinner. Seems quaint enough. It's a nice restaurant, beautiful bottle of wine. Halfway through the first glass, Catherine leans in and says, I need to give away $1 million in the next 3 hours, and you're my board, which kind of sounds like the concept for a new reality show, but imagine that. You're just thinking you're going for dinner, and now you're finance, governance, and legal. But sure enough, 3 hours go by, and they have done it. They've given away $1 million. One of the charities is Union Gospel Mission. They're focused on homeless teens. And they actually call back, and they say, kind of very politely, I think there may have been a mistake here. Did you really mean to do this? Without hesitating, Catherine says, yes. And because you're honest enough to ask, we're doubling it. That's Catherine. Decisive, unstoppable, generous, and all these things are amplified with a good glass of wine in your hand, I'm told, Catherine, but yes. She would also, yes. She'd also make a great contestant on Survivor. Why, you ask? All right, here we go. Years back, Catherine is up north. And I'm not talking like Muskoka up north. I'm talking here. Boom. Baffin Island up north. All right? So she's scouting potential mining sites, and her colleague, of course, something like this, you've got to get there by helicopter. Helicopter drops them off, lifts off. As it lifts off, it drops a bear gun. Okay, so the bear gun comes down from about 30 feet. Now, I don't know about you, I would panic, right? Polar bears, ice, no ride home. Not Catherine. She looks at her friend, she's totally calm. She says, I'm not scared. I know I can run faster than you. So let's continue with the concept of families and the Hall. R.G.K. Morrison was inducted to the Canadian Mining Hall of Fame in 2007. He was known as the father of rock mechanics. What he was not known as was the father of Gord Morrison. No. Gord, you're probably thinking, oh shit, did they? No. I know. Gord didn't come from a mining family. Instead, he came from a lumber family in Sturgeon Lake. And somewhere between Sturgeon Lake and Sudbury, Gord came to understand that mining isn't just about what you take out of the ground. It's about what you build along the way. Companies, people, relationships with people, and credibility. Now, if some of you are wondering why you might not immediately recognize Gord, don't feel bad about that. That is totally by design. That's about as good as it gets as a photo. And I thank Catherine Farrell very much for this very rare image of Gord. He has spent his entire career quietly shaping modern mineral exploration while at the same time doing everything possible to avoid being photographed doing it. So while a camouflage isn't really Gord's thing, that discovery flash burns very, very bright. Catherine also told me about him jumping up and down at a drill rig on a late Saturday night, celebrating mineralized veins like a kid on Christmas morning. And not with the words, I found it, but we found it. Gord had many a we found it moment. He was not a one-hit wonder. But speaking, okay? But speaking of one-hit wonders, we're going to pivot. This is a new one for the Hall of Fame Gala. We're going to pivot to a quick game of Name That Tune. Why not? All right. Are you ready for it? And you poor buggers, you're going to have to listen to me. Here we go. But January made me shiver with every Hall of Fame induction I delivered. You guys know it? All right, well, listen, I apologize for putting you all through that. But if Don Lindsay was singing it, you might actually call it entertainment. I see a few people know where we're going with this. Listen, Don McLean wrote this famed epic song that goes on for like 9 minutes, and our Don Lindsay, knows every word of it and is not shy about belting it out. We even considered asking him to perform it during his acceptance speech, but Ross Beatty wisely shot that one down. He said we'd need to push the after party into tomorrow to accommodate it. So, in the interest of time, listen, Don's leadership helped push this industry into the future in many, many ways. He's a broad-minded leader that understood that sustainable profits can really only come on the back of sustainability. This is a truth that we all hold dear now, but we hold it dear because leaders like Don drove it to the front of our consciousness over 20 years ago. Now, his great respect for the environment was no doubt fueled by his deep love of our country's natural beauty. When he was a younger man, he traded in his hockey skates for a rowing paddle. And that paddle turned out to be his ticket. Because instead of getting familiar with the dingy change rooms across the GTA, it opened up this country's awe-inspiring wilderness, and that had a lasting impact on Don. He also famously never sleeps. So if you've ever received an email from Don, which by those giggles, I think a few of you have, and thought, oh, that's a bit odd. No, it's not. That's just Don, and he's just warming up. Now, David Harquail. Another titan of our industry that has made doing things the right way the only way to do things. To accomplish all that David has accomplished in his esteemed career takes an unrelenting drive. And the story that best gives us a glimpse of that drive is actually a story about its absence. I don't know, that's a bit of a head turner. This one came to me from Pierre Lasson. It's December 2007. Franco has just returned to the public markets following months of relentless work on David and his whole team's part. So David's going to take a well-earned family vacation. They're going to go to safari in South Africa. So Pierre happens to sees David just before Christmas. And he's not looking very good. He's fighting the winter flu. But David assures Pierre, he says, I'll be fine. I just need 24 hours. I'll be fine. So now we fast forward 3 weeks later. Pierre's sitting down with David's daughter, and it's also Pierre's goddaughter, Sophia. And he asks her, Sophia, how was the trip? Sophia goes, best family holiday ever. Pierre's like, oh yeah, okay. He's like, Dad was so sick, he had to stay in bed for a week. We got to soak up the sun, hang out by the pool, and just do nothing. No tours, no hikes, no villages, no mines. She loved it. Now the video later tonight is going to touch upon what happens when a healthy David takes the family to Machu Picchu, so stay tuned for that one. But in a nutshell, we can say with David, if he's not busy, he thinks something's gone terribly wrong. So listen, ladies and gentlemen, tonight we have the honor to all share in the celebration of these four extraordinary individuals. Different paths. I love it. Everyone's warming up their hands. We got lots of applause to give tonight. Different paths, different personalities, shared excellence. At a moment when the world has rediscovered the importance of critical and precious metals, seemingly suddenly realizing that the work being done by the people in this very room is essential if humanity is to carry on with a little thing we call civilization. These inductees represent the very best of Canadian mining, past, present, and future. So with that, let's get to it. Let's begin. But before we begin, I'm going to invite Deb McCombe to the podium. Deb is the chair of the Canadian Mining Hall of Fame, as I mentioned earlier. She is also Global Technical Director, Global Mining Advisory at SLR Consulting. Now, before we do get Deb up here, though, we do want to take a moment to recognize one of our sponsors.
Thank you to our visionary sponsor, Hatch. Celebrating 7 decades of exceptional customer service, Hatch partners with their clients to tackle their toughest challenges in the metals, energy, and mining infrastructure sectors. Thank you to Hatch for tonight's dinner wine.
Thank you very much, Anthony. Good evening, everyone. It's a real pleasure to be here. Bonsoir à tous. A pleasure and honor to be here tonight as chair of the Canadian Mining Hall of Fame as we celebrate 4 new members. Since 1989, we've honored 212 leaders for their outstanding contributions to Canada's minerals, exploration, and mining sector, both here at home and abroad. We are fortunate to recognize many of these leaders who are here with us this evening. Please join me in welcoming each of these Hall of Fame members and kindly hold your applause until the end. Jerry Asp, Ross Beattie, Peter Bradshaw, Alex Davidson, Pat Dillon, Dave Elliott, Terry McGibbon, Philip Mackey, Rob McEwen, Bob Quartermain, Bill Roscoe, Doug Silver, Gren Thomas, and of course, Ed Thompson. Please stand and be recognized. Thank you. Let's take a moment to honor Canadian Mining Hall of Fame member John T. Postal, who passed away on February 28th last year. In 2024, John was inducted alongside Bill Roscoe. As Roscoe, Postal, and Associates, they revolutionized the world of mining consulting and standards development. Their dedication to establishing trustworthy regulatory frameworks created international standards, enhanced investor confidence, and facilitated financing efforts for numerous mining companies. John's accomplishments will be forever remembered and honored by the Canadian Mining Hall of Fame. I would also like to mention the generosity of one of our members, David Elliott, who donated $20,000 to the Canadian Mining Hall of Fame. This is the third year in a row David has made this significant contribution. Please join me in thanking David. So now's the moment we've been all waiting for this evening. It's time to recognize our 2026 inductees, 4 industry leaders who we are here to celebrate and honor. A quick message from one of our sponsors before we commence.
From our humble beginnings in Cobalt, Ontario, to becoming the world's second largest gold producer today, Agnico Eagle has been part of Canada's mining history for more than 65 years. Built by passion and dedication, led by visionaries who believed in our industry and in creating something bigger than a mine. Because our story isn't just about gold, it's about people. People united by purpose and possibilities, working together to inspire new paths and forge an enduring legacy. Proud of our past, excited for the future.
We're going to get started in earnest, and we're going to induct the 4 incredible leaders of the Canadian Mining Hall of Fame. Our first inductee this evening is the living legend himself, Gord Morrison. So please turn your attention to the video screens. We're going to learn more about Gord.
For more than 50 years, Gordon Morrison has helped shape Canadian mining exploration, making 17 major mineral discoveries across the Sudbury Basin and beyond, revitalizing established camps while inspiring and guiding the next generation of exploration geoscientists.
Gord is a Canadian mining industry legend and the epitome of what an exploration geologist strives to be. He's an example of what true leadership in the mining industry looks like.
He would give us the space to do our work, and he truly wanted us to take the time to understand and tear apart the geology and then put it back together. And he was just so easy to work with.
Born in 1948 in Sturgeon Falls, Ontario, and raised in the nearby community of Field, Gord came from a multi-generational family in the lumber industry. As a teen, his father gave him the hardest jobs in the mill.
He wanted me to be able to understand how to fill other people's shoes and how difficult some jobs would be. He needed me to be able to visualize and understand that sometimes you have to do the hard stuff.
An elective geology course set Gord on his career path. He graduated from Queen's University in 1971. After summer jobs with Inco's Geological Research Group, Gord was hired by Inco to work underground at the Levack mine.
I think all exploration geologists should start off underground because, if you're on surface all the time, it's different than actually going underground and you can, my God, I can touch the beast. I can see it. I know what you look like.
After 4 years underground, Gord joined the above-ground exploration team at a time when people thought there were no resources left to find in Sudbury.
We're actually chewing through our existing resources. So, how can we, replace 10 million tons a year?
It was Gord's willingness to combine traditional techniques while adopting new technology that led to the success of the exploration group. The team began using 2 and 3D methods and borehole electromagnetic instrumentation being developed at the University of Toronto, championed by Yves Lamontagne.
This particular tool was tuned up very nicely for the kind of big, very conductive targets they were looking for. At about 1.7 kilometers down, they got a beautiful anomaly and all kinds of strong background responses. And just 60 meters off the hole, it turned out to be the Victor discovery.
Catherine Farrell recalls the excitement of later discovering what became the Morrison mine, named for Gord.
The snow was melting and it was pouring rain and it was a terrible night. And we got the truck stuck and we went out to the drill and we'd hit that second vein and then we knew we were in it and we were just so excited. I remember dancing around in the slop and the mud and the snow and the whole team, and must have been 15 people involved in that discovery.
In total, Gord and his teams made 17 discoveries, which led to 9 operating mines. These discoveries are valued at more than $70 billion in today's metal prices. But it's Gord's ability to connect with people and create those teams that are key to his success.
He is somebody that when nobody is looking, he's doing the right thing. And his success comes from his leadership, really, and the culture that he's cultivated.
It really doesn't matter if you're CEO of the company, the Prime Minister of the country, or you're the first-year student, cutting core in the back room. Everybody is the same, and I think it's that he just naturally invites people to want to be mentored by him.
Gord believes in a learn and adjust approach to discovery, an approach that empowers and inspires his teams to do their best work.
You're going to stub your toe now and again, no cause for alarm, learn and adjust. And away we go. And I think that he lives by that.
The majority of Gord's discoveries were made while with Inco, FNX Mining, Quadra FNX, and KGHM International Limited. In 2012, he joined TMAC Resources as founding president and chief technology officer. While working on the Hope Bay project, he helped negotiate a landmark 20-year agreement with Inuit landowners, setting a new benchmark for Indigenous partnerships.
Respect and trust is really important. Always, try to respect other people's, point of view, and if you do that, they will trust you.
77 years young at the time of his induction, Gord isn't ready to retire. He is still involved with a number of companies and continues to lead and mentor in his quiet but powerful way.
To me, there's still so many things to understand and so many things to do. Yeah, I still haven't found what I'm looking for.
Gord, please join us on stage, please.
Thank you very much, and congratulations to the 3 other inductees tonight. It's a great honor to be here with them. And also, as you saw, it basically, when you're doing the work, you don't really think about, getting an honor or getting an award or anything else. But this is kind of cool. And also, but it is very humbling to be up here, and yet, though, it's incredibly exhilarating when I think about all of the people who were and still are part of this journey. My journey in the mining industry, as we saw in the video, spans 55 years now, And yet, I journey on, always in the hope of finding what I'm looking for. I still haven't found what I'm looking for. However, we do not travel this world alone. And that's, in any challenging endeavor, help can come from many sources, but the people around you are key to that successful outcome. That was the wisdom imparted to me by my father, who saw the strength in good people. And I've tried to basically see that strength in good people whenever I created a team or tried to work with people and so on. Yeah, the people around you really empower you with their strength, and you have to be able to see that. And for the past 58 years of my journey, an enormous part of that strength has come from Yvette, my ever supportive and loving wife. To you, Yvette, an enormous thank you. Without you, this would not have been possible or have happened. So, as you saw in the video, in my first years of work, Inco had very talented people in their technical services group. It covered basically every practical aspect of geoscience and mining. And as a young, newly graduated geologist, I was a sponge. And I thank them for their boundless sharing of knowledge. One of them was the very best fundamental geologist you could ever work with, Andres Bita, to Andy Bite, to all of the Anglos in the audience. Then there is the ever brilliant mind of Hayden Butler, who taught me so much about how to triage data, how to understand the forest by looking at the individual trees, as an analogy. And of course, Alan King, who is here this evening, who taught me the reality of interpreting geophysical data. He taught me geophysics, and at least I tried, I taught him geology. But together, our ideas were so much stronger. As for brilliant minds, as you saw, we deeply miss Yves Lamontagne, who passed away, and who made it so much easier for us to explore deeper and better. We would be so much better off if Yves was still with us. We would dearly miss him. And the great technical efforts also, we can't forget, are enhanced by great management, especially within large corporations where bureaucracy can sometimes be a challenge. Yeah, one of those great corporate managers that we were blessed to have, in those days and who made our lives so much easier was Ed Debicki, who is here tonight as well. Thanks, Ed. In the latter years of Inco were my introduction to an exceptionally gifted person who for the past 30 years has been a colleague, a business partner, and a good friend, Catherine Parrow. We transitioned together to the years of FNX, Quadra FNX, and which those companies became a 10-year odyssey of tremendous success. That success was in large part due to the mindset that Catherine fostered in the team, because when we started FNX, those properties had zero book value, and it was an incredible challenge. And for Catherine's mindset to the team was, when a challenge looks impossible, look at what you can do, not despair about what you can't do. The FNX years were also very meaningful because the team was a strong mix of both men and women. Strong women talents like Shastri Ramnath, Ashley Quirwin, Chantal Jolette. All of them are now presidents of their own successful mining-related companies, and they crucially contributed to the success we celebrate here tonight. As well, the male portions of that FNX team Like Dave King. I've worked with Dave, many years, and I still work with him today because he does so many things better than I do. After FNX, the years at Hope Bay in the Arctic were very special. And I owe a debt of gratitude and a big thank you to the Inuit people for their friendship and their wisdom. And also to TMAC Resources for providing the opportunity for us to work in the Arctic and have that sense of working with people like the Inuit. So lastly, though, I have a simple message to all of the geoscientists in the mining industry. And by geoscientists, I mean geologists, geophysicists, metallurgists, and even mining engineers. Next time a new discovery is made and people are slapping themselves on the back saying, wow, we sure picked the right horse, just remember that you guys, you are that horse. And without you, there is no horsepower. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Gord, I should warn you, there is a gaggle of paparazzi outside those double doors for when you leave, so you can get prepared to deflect the flashes. Congratulations to Gord. Listen, before we go on to our next inductee, let's recognize our champion sponsor.
Thank you to our champion sponsor, Allied Gold. Allied Gold is an international gold mining company with a diversified portfolio of long-life assets that have peer-leading production and financial growth. These assets, which include both producing and development stage properties, are located in jurisdictions supportive of mining, including Mali, Côte d'Ivoire, and Ethiopia. Thank you to our champion sponsor, Teck. Teck is a leading Canadian resource company focused on responsibly producing metals essential for global development and the energy transition. Headquartered in Vancouver, Teck has world-class copper and zinc operations across North and South America and an industry-leading copper growth pipeline.
Our next inductee, ladies and gentlemen, this evening is Don Lindsay. Please enjoy this video celebrating Don's distinguished career.
Few have shaped Canada's mining industry as profoundly as Don Lindsay, a leader defined by vision, precision, and a deep sense of responsibility to both society and the environment.
He's one of Canada's great citizens. His passion for building businesses, his passion for giving back, his passion for working with the community on community initiatives. I just think Don hits all of those in a perfect way. I really admire him.
Don played a key role in building Teck over the years, in particular emphasizing safety as a core value and ensuring safety was always the first consideration in everything we do. His care for recognizing and supporting employees also helped to foster a culture of respect and dedication across the organization.
Don's future as CEO of Teck was foreshadowed in his childhood when at 9 years old he toured a mine on Lake Temagami, a mine that laid the foundation for what became Teck Corporation.
Literally, you put on a hard hat that essentially has a flashlight on it, and you go down underground, and there's tunnels and there's all these ventilation tubes and pipes, and you get to drive your own train. It's like a little boy's dream come true.
That sparked a passion that led him to Queen's University to study mining engineering. His first job with the Iron Ore Company of Canada grounded his understanding of the industry and the people in it.
I had a couple hours orientation. By that night, at midnight, I was a foreman in the pit with 25 Steelworkers Union guys reporting to me. I'm 21 years old. I don't know which way's up. Honestly, it was just crazy. On night shift, I would try and operate every single equipment, a grader, a dozer, a drill, a shovel. You could never do that today. It was just incredibly unsafe. But they respected that I wanted to know and understand what they were doing.
3 years later, Don decided to go back to school, obtaining an MBA from Harvard Business School. After joining CIBC World Markets, Don developed the world's first mining investment banking group.
I wrote a 4-page business plan and said, how about I start a mining finance team? And they said yes, and I was the first full-time employee, and they gave me half of another employee, and that's where we started. And before too long, we had 75 employees in Toronto, Vancouver, New York, London, Sydney, Australia, Perth, Australia.
In 2005, Don joined Teck. Under his leadership, the company's market cap grew from $8 billion to $22 billion. Strategic investments like ore resources helped build the company while increasing share prices. Teck's Quebrada Blanca mine in Chile is one of the world's largest copper mines.
He understood it wasn't just about producing the product. It was also about what is the legacy that you leave for communities.
Long before ESG was a recognized term, Teck, under Don's leadership, made sustainability, corporate responsibility, equity, and diversity part of the company's DNA. And by the time the mining industry and the stock market began to focus on these areas, Teck was held up as the model the mining industry should emulate.
Don's commitment to ESG has inspired many programs at Teck, including the Copper and Health programs and Zinc and Health programs, a partnership with UNICEF to address zinc deficiency in children. It has reached over 140 million people worldwide. Don was able to see the program at work in Kenya.
When we came out of the nursing station, there were 10 mothers and their children, the children whose lives had been saved. I get choked up thinking about it. No one else was there to see it, but it was so moving, it was so powerful. You know, Teck made a difference.
Don spearheaded a $200 million campaign to create the Teck Acute Care Center at BC Children's Hospital. He also helped develop the global industry standard on tailings management while chair of International Council on Mining and Metals.
One of my proudest moments was when we set the goal to be nature positive. And with that announcement, we announced the donation of a lot of land to have a running start towards achieving that goal.
Don's annual canoe trip with other mining leaders allows them to connect with the environment on a deeper level.
It also informs us all, I think, on the importance of protecting that beauty and making sure that both we have an active mining industry, but we also don't forget that we have to also have a very healthy environment. And that's what's informed a lot of what I do.
Teck has been acknowledged as one of the best companies to work for. Internal programs designed to enhance communication and recognize excellence have led to that success.
It provides opportunities that maybe push you outside of your comfort zone, that challenge you to learn, to do something different. And I think that's why people like to work for Teck.
Since retiring from Teck in 2022, Don is still active in the industry and beyond. As chair of Manulife Financial, as board member of BHP Group Limited, and chair of the 2025 Invictus Games.
He's a very, very smart guy. He's extremely high energy, and he's capable of looking beyond the trees at the forest and really trying to picture how things could be with the different organizations he's worked with, including Teck.
Don Lindsay's career stands as a reminder that leadership is about more than success. It's about responsibility, compassion, and about the choices we make that affect the world around us.
Don, come on up and receive your award.
Thank you very much. What an extraordinary honor to be here tonight alongside these three remarkable individuals who have each contributed enormously to the industry. And congratulations to David, Catherine, and Gordon. It is a true privilege to be receiving this award along with you. And you know, just a fun fact to share with the audience. David, Harquail, and I have been colleagues in the industry for decades, but we actually went to high school together. And in fact, we were on the rowing team together. And I remember in October of 1974, our rowing team entered the Head of the Charles Regatta in Boston, one of the biggest. And we had to drive from Toronto to Boston. It's about 12 hours. And we had 6 teenage boys, aged 15 to 17, in my mother's old station wagon. My mother was driving, but of course she couldn't drive the whole 12 hours. But she was confident to have one David Harquail, who she said was a very responsible young man who was going places, drive the car. David, she was right. Just wanted to tell you. And then for any of those who were paying close attention to me, yes, I brought the rock. This is the rock, the 28% copper of the Temagami mine that started Teck, the modern-day Teck. I carry it with me frequently, and it's here again tonight. In any event, ladies and gentlemen, let me take you back 30 years ago to the Hall of Fame dinner in 1996. There was big news that day. Robert Friedland and Diamond Fields Resources announced a huge extension to the Eastern Deeps discovery next to the original ovoid zone in Labrador, a massive nickel, copper, and cobalt deposit. The geology was extraordinary, as it always is with Robert. And I knew immediately, as so many others did too, that this was going to be one of those defining moments in Canadian mining history. Now, my mining team at CIBC with Gundy had a table, but our good friend and client, the legendary Frank Pickard, was that night sitting at the BMO Nesbitt Burns table. I knew we had to act fast. I knew that we could not wait until the next day to approach Frank. We had to get to him that night. So 2 members of my team crossed the floor, approached the BMO table to say hello and engage in the usual banter and create a distraction while I got Frank away from the table and I gave him some of my best ideas. And he said, Don, meet me tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. in my office. And that was the beginning of the Battle of Voisey's Bay, the battle between Inco and Falconbridge for one of the richest discoveries of the time. So ladies and gentlemen, watch carefully what's going on here tonight. Who's talking to who? There could be another big deal happening right before your eyes. You know, I've spent a lot of time over my career thinking about what makes this industry special. And I keep coming back to something I told our exploration team many years ago in 2005 when I gave a speech in Townsville, Australia. And I called it the license to dream. And because that's what mining is really all about, isn't it? We dream constantly. We dream about that next hole that's going to come in big, that 1,000-meter intercept of 2% copper, or maybe 28% copper. We dream about the elephants, the giant ore bodies waiting to be discovered. We dream about just how high the copper price might go, or gold, or silver, or uranium, or whatever commodity keeps us up at night. And I told those geologists that if they had the passion and the courage to pursue their dreams, they should come to my office and jump up and down on my desk, leave footprints, and insist that we fund them. Some called it the footprints on the desk speech. And while we didn't find many elephants, we did find one. QB2 went from what started as 8 deep drill holes that very few people knew about to today over 10 billion tons. Dreams do come true, but only if you have the guts to pursue them. And that takes extraordinary people. Which brings me to what I really wanted to do tonight. I want to pay tribute to the real heroes, the men and women on the front lines of our industry. And you know who I'm talking about. The people who show up every single day at mine sites around the world. The miners at Red Dog in Alaska, working in temperatures most people can't even imagine. The mill operators at Highland Valley Copper, processing incredibly low-grade ore. The geologists in the Atacama Desert drilling QB2's massive ore body. The community relations teams building bridges with indigenous communities and our towns, our mining towns, and earning that most precious commodity of all, trust. These men and women face incredible challenges. Mother Nature throws everything at them: extreme heat, bitter cold, isolation, floods, earthquakes. They deal with declining ore grades, water scarcity, energy constraints. They navigate complex permitting processes and rising community expectation, and often a world that doesn't always appreciate how much they rely on what we do. But I have good news. We are no longer just the mining industry. We are now the critical minerals industry. Prime ministers and presidents now talk about accelerating permits and developments. Finally, they get it. Hear, hear. After so many years. You know, most people don't realize how dependent their whole life is on mining. You know, your smartphone, roughly 61 different minerals. The screen, the battery, the circuitry, the casing, all of it mined. That computer you worked on today, the car you drove here in, the chair you're sitting on, the electrical grid that powers this room, the medical equipment in our hospitals, the infrastructure of our cities, every single bit of it required mining. I used to ask the audience in my speeches whether anyone, for example, stored their photos in the cloud. Anybody here store their photos in the cloud? And of course, pretty much all of the hands would go up. And then I would say, you do realize that the cloud is not in the air, that it's firmly on the ground and it's made of metal, copper, and so on. As you can expect, there would be a lot of people shifting in their seats, realizing that in fact they had thought their photos were in the air. So then I would say, please tell me you knew that, tell me you knew that. And then I'd say, okay, I know you didn't know, but now you do. So go home and tell your friends and your family. I think we all got to do that. You see, it's the critical minerals that make life, modern life, possible. Lithium for batteries, cobalt for electronics, rare earths for everything from MRI machines to wind turbines, defense system, copper, the most critical mineral of all for electrification, nickel for stainless steel and batteries, zinc for galvanizing, and let's not forget, zinc save kids, zinc for human health. And without the people in this room and those working at mine sites around the world, modern society simply stops functioning. But here's what gives me hope. The people doing this work are up to the challenge. They always have been. And the people who make all of this possible deserve our recognition. They deserve our respect. They deserve to be understood as the essential workers they truly are. Tonight, I want to specifically thank the men and women of Teck Resources. You supported me through 18 incredible years. You left those footprints on my desk. You believed in the vision. You did the hard work, drilling, engineering, permitting, community engagement, operations, day in and day out. Tonight, Sheila Murray, the chair, and Jonathan Price, my successor, are both here. I thank them all. I really appreciate it. I want to thank Norman Keevil. Without his support, I would have never had the job in the first place. And looking back over the years, we did a lot of incredible things together in building the company. And his experience and advice were always appreciated. And I want to thank his son, Norman Keevil III, as well, who I had great talks with every 2 weeks for so many years, a true class act. Now, there is, of course, as you would imagine, a very long list of other people who I would very much like to publicly recognize. And on different occasions, I've tried to name everybody in the room, but it just isn't possible to name them all tonight. So I'll do it in groups. I want to start with those extraordinary industry players, industry leaders, many of whom are already in the Hall of Fame, who sent letters in on my behalf. Thank you. The PDAC, the sponsoring organization that nominated me, appreciate it. My partners in the CIBC mining team, thank you for the time that we spent together, all those deals, doing all those deals as colleagues, but more importantly, thank you all for the time that we've spent together as good friends. My senior team at Teck, every one of them over those 18 years, such extraordinary commitment, so much appreciated. And my new team at BHP, just been with you a couple years, but it's been so special. Thank you for being here. My longtime EA who moved to Vancouver 21 years ago with me, Mona Hatt, and Connie Wong, who did double or triple duty on behalf of the last of those years, very much appreciate you being here. But most of all, a special thank you to two people, Stephanie Dunlop. I know I would not be here without your efforts and dedication. I so much appreciate it. And Ross Beatty, thank you, not just for your support and your commitment related to my nomination, but for all that you do for our industry and, frankly, for the world at large. You truly do make the world a better place. Thank you. You know, I've been thinking about why this industry attracts the people it does. Why do we go to PDAC, to LME Week, CIM, Diggers and Dealers, Roundup, and even this dinner? Sure, there's business to be done. But I think we really go to see our friends. Mining is as much a people business as any other. We compete, yes, but we collaborate and partner better than most. We are a mentoring industry. We take care of each other. We have incredible financiers with tremendous imagination. We are adventurers. We are optimists and enthusiasts, and we cherish that license to dream because those dreams, through sheer guts, grit, and perseverance, drive some amazing accomplishment, and society depends on that whether they know it or not. The world is finally waking up to what we've always known, that mining is absolutely critical to everything humanity wants to achieve, whether it be healthcare, national security, the energy transition, technology innovation. AI itself depends upon mining. We are not just part of the economy, we are the foundation of the economy. So to every person in this room and to all those who couldn't be here tonight, thank you. Thank you for your resilience in the face of incredible challenges. Thank you for your creativity and your determination. Thank you for believing that what we do matters, because it does, more than almost anything else. The world runs on mining, and mining runs on people like you. Finally, and most important of all, I want to thank my family, Jennifer, Julia, Charlotte, and Sienna, who are all here tonight, who flew in from London and New York and Vancouver. You made my career possible, and more importantly, you made my life better than I ever dreamed. I couldn't be prouder of you all. Thank you for being there all along the way. And to this industry that has given me a lifetime of adventure and challenge and friendship and purpose, it has been an honor. Thank you very much.
Wow. Incredible speech. And to think he wrote all of that between 2:45 a.m. and 3:30 a.m. Congratulations, Don. Before we introduce our next inductee, let us acknowledge our gold sponsor.
Thank you to our gold sponsors, Alamos Gold Inc., Kinross Gold Corporation, Magris Performance Materials, and World Gold Council.
Our next inductee is Catherine McLeod-Seltzer. Woo!
Catherine McLeod-Seltzer's deep roots in mining, combined with strong business acumen and an understanding of geology, uniquely positioned her to become a leader in the industry.
Catherine's exemplary career has not only helped shape the landscape of global mineral exploration and development, but has also set a standard for leadership, innovation, and integrity in our industry.
One of the things I admire most about Catherine is her ability to deal with all the various aspects of the business. But one of the most impressive things about that is she can go out in the field and with a rock hammer and talk rocks with the geologists as well.
Born in 1960 into a multi-generational mining family with strong roots in Stewart, BC, Catherine was immersed in mining at a very early age.
As a family, we would sit around the dinner table, and from the time I can remember, it was rocks and stocks. And my mom loved playing the junior mining stock speculative game, and she was very good at it.
Catherine's father, mining industry pioneer Don McLeod, led the family from Stewart to Pine Point in the Northwest Territories to Vancouver.
My first memories were going on family vacations in the summer in a camper van, going to mining prospects and mining towns.
It was an interest in finance that drew Catherine to earn a Bachelor of Business Administration at Trinity Western University. A pivotal moment in her career came when a report on Latin American exploration and development landed on her boss Frank Justra's desk.
I got a call from Frank, and he said, "We're opening an office in South America. And, we're looking for somebody to represent us there, and would you be interested?" And I said, yes. He said, "Well, do you want to think about it?" I said, "No, I just did. Yes, I want to go."
It was there Catherine met and partnered with renowned geologist David Lowell.
Dave Lowell was the most successful geologist in the world. He discovered more copper than anybody, and they became fast friends. One thing that Dave recognized in Catherine is that she had skills that he didn't. She knew the market.
Catherine and David founded Arequipa Resources. In 1995, they found Pierina, a high-grade gold-silver deposit in Peru that attracted the interest of Barrick Gold.
They said, we are making a bid for $27 a share for your company. And we kind of went, oh, well, that's interesting. Can we get back to you? So David and I, going up the elevator, we're like high-fiving each other. We kept drilling. We kept the negotiating with Barrick. And at the end of the day, you know, through a lot of good strategy and luck, we ended up getting $100 million more, and we got $1.1 billion for the company.
Their next venture was Peru Copper.
About 3.5 years later, we sold it to Chinalco for around just under $900 million. And it's now one of the largest copper mines in the world.
During her career, Catherine has raised over $600 million in exploration capital and helped build and sell companies worth more than $4 billion. After major successes in gold and copper, she moved on to diamonds, partnering with Ira Thomas.
Ira had been super successful with drilling the discovery holes at Diavik for Aber, and was sort of moving on from that and also looking for something new to do. So, you know, we came together and we were just like fireworks, right?
That partnership created Stornoway Diamond Corporation, which developed Renard, Quebec's first diamond mine. In 2007, they partnered with Lucas Lundin to create Lucara Diamonds, whose Karowe mine is known for producing some of the world's largest diamonds.
I can remember the first call saying, we just, 1,100 carat diamond just popped out of the recovery circuit. And we're like, wow, and then a 300, and then another 500, and all these big diamonds. And it became an extremely profitable mine.
What makes Catherine extraordinary isn't just her remarkable track record. It's who she is. She's smart, she's determined, and despite everything she's accomplished, she operates entirely without ego. That combination is rare in any industry, and it's why so many of us have followed her into one venture after another.
Although focused on the business side of mining, Catherine also knows the thrill of a major find.
It's just so exciting. It's the treasure hunt. And the same with the diamonds. When we started to recover the big diamonds at Lucara, it's just so satisfying.
Catherine's positive impact on the industry has also been felt in her contributions as board member or chair of many organizations.
What I really respect about Catherine is her qualities. Number one would be integrity. Number two would be determination. And three, she's got an incredible savvy, or what I would call intuition, for early stage opportunities.
Guided by strong principles, Catherine has become a respected advocate for responsible mining. One of many community programs helped alpaca herders in Peru improve their wool.
We started to bring in veterinarians, nutrition programs, medicines, hygiene programs, and the kids are the ones that help the moms in that business. So washing their hands meant that respiratory illness, which is the largest killer of infants in the highlands of Peru, went way down.
Catherine has been a trailblazer for women in the industry, helping reshape the culture, breaking barriers, and opening doors for the next generation.
She's been an incredible leading figure for women in the industry. She's been a great example of what you can achieve with her career.
As one of Canada's most influential mining leaders, Catherine's legacy is defined not only by financial success, but by raising the standard for leadership in mining, a standard built on integrity and inclusion.
Catherine, please come up and receive your award.
Good evening. It's such an honor to be here tonight, and really a little surreal. I've spent most of my life, as many of you know, in this industry. And I can tell you, you don't set out on your first exploration project thinking one day you'll be standing here. I'm deeply, deeply grateful to the Canadian Mining Hall of Fame, the selection committee, to my peers and partners, and to so many of you in this room who have been part of my journey. Thank you. Mining has always been part of my DNA. I grew up in Stewart, where my dad was building mines in places most people couldn't even point to on a map. He had this bold determination and an incredible sense of integrity that defined everything he did. When my dad was inducted into this Hall of Fame, I remember sitting in the audience thinking, how extraordinary to have your life's work recognized by the people who know how hard this business really is. I never imagined I'd be following him here, but Dad, I hope you're looking down tonight proud and maybe shaking your head a little bit that we are the first father-daughter inductees into this prestigious honor. I started my career in finance, which was my way of getting close to mining without strapping on a hard hat. But in 1992, having met David Lowell, one of the greatest geologists in the business, I made a truly life-changing move. David and I were opposites in so many ways. He was quiet and meticulous, and I was, well, a little less so. But we trusted each other completely. Together, we built a dream on a shoestring budget. We raised $5 million, discovered an enormous gold deposit, the Purina deposit in Peru, and a few years later, we sold the company to Barrick Gold for $1.1 billion. I'll never forget thinking when the deal was done that this is what happens when you work with the right people. David and I teamed up again to acquire a major copper asset. We started that venture when I was 3 months pregnant. And the day after I gave birth, David called while I was still in the hospital to say, we got it. And I remember thinking, well, a new baby and a copper project, it's going to be quite a year. That project became Toromocho, one of the largest copper mines in the world, and we later sold that to Chinalco for $840 million. Those were exhausting, wonderful years. Proof that with the right people and a lot of persistence, you can build something extraordinary. If there's one thing I've learned through the ups and downs of 4 decades in this business, is that mining is cyclical, brutally so at times, but people and principles endure. When I look back, what I cherish most aren't the deals or the discoveries, it's the relationships. The late nights spent chasing capital, the phone calls from partners all over the world, the small wins that felt impossible. I've raised hundreds of millions of dollars, yes, but most importantly, I've raised lifelong friendships. And if I've managed to make the path a little clearer for the next generation, especially for young women, that's what I'm proudest of. To my family, my husband Tom, and our sons Graham and Lucas, thank you for sharing this adventure with me. You've lived through the red-eye flights, the late night and pre-dawn calls, the celebrations and the heartbreaks, but you've given me balance and perspective. To my incredible friends and colleagues, to the people we've lost too soon, like David Lowell and Lucas Lundin, and so many others, I share this honor with you. You made me better. Ira, Bruce, my 2 dearest friends and partners, we've done some great things together, but most importantly, we've had a lot of fun and adventure. To Dave DeWitt, I'm so grateful for the wisdom and friendship we've shared over so many years. Thank you all for your partnership, your guidance, and your steady belief in me. You have helped shape my instincts and sharpen my judgment at moments in my career when it mattered most. To Kinross and Paul Rowlandson, thank you. Kinross has been an important chapter in my corporate life. The trust you placed in me,
the leadership we shared, and the opportunity to be part of a company I'm deeply proud of has shaped me as much as any discovery or transaction ever could. It's been one of the greatest privileges of my career. And to my new family at Teck, I feel like Forrest Gump. I was in the right place at the right time, joining the board just this spring as Teck embarked on a transformational merger to create one of the largest copper producers in the world and based here in Canada. And to everyone who has believed in me, mentored me, and challenged me, many of you are in the room tonight, but too many to name. You know who you are, and we are going to party afterwards, right? This industry is about trust. It's about integrity. It's about believing even in the toughest moments, that what we do matters. Mining done right builds nations, powers economies, and creates opportunities. That's what my father taught me, and that's what I've tried to live by, and it's what I hope the next generation of mining will carry forward. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for this incredible honor and for reminding me tonight just how lucky I've been to spend my life doing what I love. Thank you all.
Congratulations to Catherine. Extraordinary, extraordinary stuff. Now, before we get to our last inductee of the evening, we do want to take a moment to thank our silver sponsors.
Thank you to our silver sponsors: BMO Capital Markets, Discovery Silver Corp, and Haywood Securities.
All right. Here we are at our final inductee this evening, and that, of course, is David Harquail.
David Harquail has gained a global reputation for combining his technical expertise with solid business strategy. A strategy based on ethics, transparency, and value creation.
Few individuals have so consistently demonstrated the vision, discipline, and industry leadership that David has brought to both the Canadian and global mining sectors.
For David, mining wasn't just a career path, it was his family legacy. His father James, mentored by the legendary Thayer Lindsay, built several exploration companies that were listed on the Toronto and Vancouver stock exchanges.
When I was a kid, even when I was in grade school, I was going to mining camps with him. So we had some in Vancouver Island, Northern Ontario, Northern Quebec, even up at Rankin Inlet. So I got to see that, and then you realize that it was nothing more Canadian than sort of being in the mining exploration business.
In 1979, David graduated from the University of Toronto with a degree in geological engineering focusing on exploration. He obtained his MBA studying at McGill University and the Haute Études Commerciales in France. After his stint in the field, David decided he could have more of an impact at head office.
When you've done enough field work, you appreciate it's nice to be at head office where the decisions are made.
After spending time in consulting and banking, David joined Denison Mines in corporate development. In 1987, a call from Beutel Goodman set him on a career trajectory that led to his current success. It's there he met Pierre Lassonde and Seymour Schulich.
David is incredibly organized, okay? Everything is planned in advance, and all the boxes are ticked, and you could see from the get-go, and we needed someone like this. When we left Beutel Goodman to go on our own with Franco-Nevada, of course David came with us.
It was a wonderful learning environment. They became my mentors in terms of learning the investment side of the business and how to make money.
David became CEO of Redstone Resources for Franco-Nevada. Following a Franco-Nevada-Newmont merger, David rose through the ranks from head of Newmont Capital to Executive Vice President of Newmont Mining Corporation.
At the end of 2007, when Newmont decided that the Franco assets were no longer fitting their business plan, David was like the first one to raise his hand and says like, no, we should buy this back.
We paid Newmont over $1.2 billion for the royalty package at that point. It was the largest mining IPO on the Toronto Stock Exchange to date. And that was all done December 20th of 2007 at $15.20 Canadian. So it's enmeshed in my mind.
With David at the helm, the company solidified its success by completing a series of strategic streaming deals, which laid the foundation for its growth.
Goldstrike, which is the very first royalty purchase in 1986, it was like a beginner golfer hitting a hole-in-one. It was just a spectacular result. That $2 million investment has generated over $1 billion.
When the commodities market took a downturn between 2015 and 2017, Franco-Nevada secured streaming deals with major mining companies, deals that are still paying dividends. Investing $2 million for a 2% royalty in Detour Gold was another successful strategic move that lives on.
Our 2%, just think about that, is generating ultimately 20,000 ounces a year, multiplied by, say, $3,000, that's $60 million US or $80 million Canadian. Remember, this is just a $2 million investment, and it's probably going to go for decades.
During his tenure, the company has grown to a market capitalization of over $50 billion.
A focus on counter-cyclical investments has helped build Franco into the royalty juggernaut it is today, and has led to very promising projects being financed even during market downturns.
A self-proclaimed mining nerd, David is always ready to share his enthusiasm for the industry, including visiting mine sites on family vacations.
We did the Machu Picchu Trail some years ago, and I had to make sure we all then went to visit the Antapaccay mine of Glencore, up at 4,500 meters.
David's passion for mining inspired two of his children to seek careers in the mining industry. David's leadership has been recognized by several organizations during his career. David has been and is a dedicated volunteer with CIM and the Prospectors and Developers Association of Canada. David also served on the Mining Standards Task Force and was chair of the World Gold Council when it adopted the Responsible Mining Gold Principles.
The very first combined Prospector and Developer Convention in CIM was David's creation.
Throughout his career, David has been committed to giving back. His philanthropic contributions include $10 million to the Harquail School of Earth Sciences at Laurentian University in Sudbury.
The ultimate goal is if we can find more mines, that creates more wealth for Canada. And that's, I think, good for everybody.
David's $17 million contribution to Sunnybrook Hospital established the Harquail Center for Neuromodulation.
Their gift has saved countless lives and has changed countless lives. So what we're doing at the center is really advancing the latest tools to advance the latest in care and research for patients with everything from Alzheimer's disease to Parkinson's to brain cancer. So that work would not be possible without their generous gift.
As of 2026, David continues as chair of Franco-Nevada and as a director at the Bank of Montreal. He is on the Board of Governors at Laurentian University, Board of Directors of the PDAC, and involved in the United Way Greater Toronto. It's clear that for David Harquail, leading is about more than results. It's about leading with integrity, inspiring innovation, and giving back in ways that have a lasting impact.
Ladies and gentlemen, David Harquail, please join us on the stage.
Wow, it's really fun to see that video for the first time, and I invite you to watch the full-length documentary on Netflix coming out shortly. Now, I want to start with my thanks with the Mining Hall of Fame board. I thank you for this honor, and I also want to congratulate the board for inducting all four of us this year while we're still living. And Anthony, I think one of the reasons we come here is to hear your singing and get your humor. So that's what you were wondering about that. I now know. Now, I used AI a bit to research the Canadian Mining Hall of Fame members, and I wanted to see what companies were producing the most members. And it's what you'd expect, is the companies that have the longest duration, longest history, such as Teck, Noranda, Inco, have as many as 4 members among the 212 members of the Mining Hall of Fame. Well, as of tonight, Franco-Nevada has 8, and we have a relatively short tenure. And so just the fact that we're the main sponsor for tonight, I would say that's fake news. Now, I also have to thank my family, my partner and love of my life, Brigitte, for over 40 years, and we have 3 wonderful children. And as you saw in the video, I've worked really hard to try to get them in the mining industry. So not only were there mine visits during vacations, but I took them along on various specific mine trips. And my son here, Peter, when he was a teenager, you'd fly up to a mine site. I think Terry McGibbon took us up to Levac, which was featured with Gord Morrison earlier. And he was inspired by the underground tour, etc. But when we got into the darkened room to look at cross sections of the deposit and the exploration potential, you'd hear him snoring in the background. So very embarrassing. But where he really paid off is that he spent his final year of high school in Switzerland. And so I was there for a conference in Zurich and said, come along with me. We're going to go visit Glencore and introduce ourselves to them. And it worked out. The following year, Glencore needed money. And how we ended up with an Antapagai deal is they called me up and says, oh, you're the guy that came with your young son. And it was memorable, and so it paid off, Peter. So thank you very much. Now, Peter's working right now for G Mining Ventures, and Sophia, my daughter's working for Aston Bay Holdings and also working for Orla Mining. And they're turning into good promoters because they're telling me these stocks are all buys. So, now the video did a good job of showing that, like Catherine, I was born into this business. My dad was mentored by the best, Thayer Lindsay. They have an award at the PDAC named after him. And I had the privilege of, just like my kids, being exposed to the industry at a very young age. And so to my dad, James Harquail, I'd like to share this honor. And then my other mentors are Seymour Schulich and Pierre Lassonde. And they are complete opposites. And I joined them back in 1987. And I remember the first thing that happened is Seymour gave me a situation to look at. I wrote up a memo analyzing what the valuation was. And he looked at it and says, Harquail, you forgot the most important thing. What's motivating the CEO and chair of this company? Do they have a lot of stock? How old are they? And he went on to lecture me saying, if you don't understand what the actions of the chair and CEO of these companies, then there's only 2 things that could be happening. There's either something illegal in the background or there's sex. And I remember I was so naive about the industry at that time. This is 1987. I said, I can remember my very words. I said, Seymour, there's no sex in the mining industry. Well, I now know better. And I just don't have time to do all those stories. With Pierre, the lessons were much more adventures. And in the mid-90s, we got involved in a gold exploration play in Cuba. And we brought some investors down with us. And we were able to score a meeting with Fidel Castro in a safe house in Havana. And it was terrific. We spent over an hour with him talking about gold. Remember, for communists, gold is supposed to line the toilet seat of the proletariat. But Castro was very curious, and so we had a great conversation. And then I pulled Pierre aside. I says, why don't we gift Castro one of our Franco-Nevada gold pens? Pierre said, great idea. And so we presented it to Castro. And out jumped the security service for Castro. They whisked him out of the room. They manhandled us, took the pen, tore it apart. The spring I can remember jumping out. And the big lesson here is do your homework before a meeting. We did not know that the CIA had tried to assassinate Castro with a poison pen. We now have that lesson ingrained in our minds. I have to thank my geology professors. I was able to get an engineering degree, but I spent most of my time in the geology department at U of T in the 1970s. And it was a golden age, to be at the university with Steve Scott, Tony Naldred, Frank Beals, Digger Gorman, and Stan Holmes. But it's not such a golden age for universities any longer. And I've been involved, and just gifting money for scholarships or endowments is not effective any longer. We have to be involved if they're going to be effective going forward. So I know the CIM is working on initiatives that I think they've called Beyond Scholarships, and I think that's going to be very important for us going forward. I also, we had a wonderful experience at Newmont, and we were able to buy out the royalty portfolio from them back in 2007, and we're still doing business with Newmont. And just in April, we were able to help Tony McCouche, I didn't see him yet today, but I know he's here somewhere, with Discovery Silver, buy the Porcupine Timmins assets from Newmont. Newmont made great money with their share position on it. That stock has been tremendous, up 1,100% last year. It was better than NVIDIA. And so it was really exciting, and it's just great to see a win-win transaction like that in the business. Now back to the IPO, I have some of the original management team from the first Franco-Nevada that were part of the IPO when we went public again. And we have Sharon Dowdle here, Jeff Waterman, Donna Andrzejczyk, Sandeep Rana, who's serving still as our CFO for the company. He's doing a great job on that. Paul Brink is our very able and CEO, doing a great job. He joined us during the Newmont era, and he's been a great successor to me. He's now served as CEO of the company for the last 5.5 years. I also have a lot of the Franco-Nevada team here that have been making the company a success, and I thank them for that. The only thing I really feel bad about is we only have 3 Franco tables. Gord Morrison has 6. And so I feel somewhat outnumbered here. I'm also grateful to the directors for their wise counsel, because I don't think a CEO can do it themselves. They need that larger and broader perspective. I really regret the loss of Graham Farquharson and Randall Oliphant. They were key to the original days of the new Franco-Nevada. And Graham was on our compensation committee, and I can remember trying to justify the salaries that we had to pay to our executives. And he would say to me, David, a top surgeon in Toronto makes $400,000. How many lives have your management team saved? And so it really grounded the discussions in terms of real fundamentals. And so if he were here today, I think he'd be happy to see that I actually have a top surgeon at my table. And you saw him in our video here, Dr. Nir Lipsman. And so I think he'd be very happy. Some of those dollars that he begrudgingly gave us is actually going to good work right now. In terms of the rest of the board, because I am a non-independent director, if you're the past CEO and you then become chair, you're not independent, so you have to have lead directors. And so we've been well served. Derek Evans was a key lead director, and now we're being served with Tom Albanese, who's here, and our lead director of the board. And he's been supported as well with many of our directors that are here today, including Catherine Farrow, Jennifer Mackey, Jacques Perron, and Hugo Dryland. And then my final thanks goes to this room. I'm a mining industry person talking to mining industry people. But I can tell you the royalty business does not work without producers and operating companies and people finding mines. So that's very important. And also, for a company like ourselves, it's more of a financial investor. I think people have called us the Gucci shoe miners. That it's important to have both the buy side and the sell side supporting you. We needed the banking, we needed the legal, we needed the regulatory and exchange talents that are in this room to be successful. Without that, we couldn't have started from within a $1.2 billion IPO, and we couldn't have reached a market cap that's exceeding $60 billion right now, which is, of course, the video is dated already. If I have any regret, it's that we've made a lot of wealth. A lot of the wealth has been given back, in Canada, but not enough of it. And if I have a regret, it's because not enough of the large Canadian pension funds have owned our company. That we've been owned primarily by US and European institutions. Mathieu Debos has done a very good job of selling the stock in Europe. But I look at my 20 top shareholders in Franco-Nevada, 2 of the smaller ones are Canadian. And it's been very frustrating to watch the large Canadian pension funds focus so much on private equity that's our illiquid long-term investments abroad, and they've forgotten about their own backyard here. And so I think the good news is that private equity is underperforming the public markets right now. It's especially underperforming the materials or the resource markets. And so I think there's going to be no choice for them to actually start buying Canadian mining stocks. And so I think it's going to be good news for us. The other good news is that, a year ago, January last year, Donald Trump did his inauguration speech, and he said this was going to be a new golden age. Was he ever right? And so he's almost single-handedly doubled the gold price. And I think he's been a major factor in changing the entire narrative for the mining sector. And Don spoke about that earlier. And I'm so grateful. When I first got into the business, mining was something that you could build Hemlo within 3 years and get it up and running. I remember that back in 79, 82. It was built by Noranda. And I felt, would that ever be possible again? And where that narrative now is there, where Canada, or mining is now seen as Don talked about, a critical industry, but it's seen as a positive, something that's going to be a nation building for this country when we really need it. And so I think it's the best of times to be a Canadian miner, and I'm very proud to be part of it. Now, this is a huge honor, and I think the only one that competes, in terms of an honor, put it up there, is that some years ago, Don convinced me to invest in or donate some money to the Duke of Edinburgh Awards. And I was invited with Don, and we went to go to Buckingham Palace, and they train you before you meet royalty. And they say if the Queen comes in, or Prince Philip, you say Your Royal Highness, and you say yes, ma'am, or yes, sir. And I remember Prince Philip coming to me, and he asked the question: "What do you do?" And I said, "Your Royal Highness, I'm in the royalty business too." So this is a huge honor. Thank you very much. That's right.
Congratulations to David. All right, let's do a really quick little recap here. So we have Baffin Island polar bears with Catherine. We have no photos allowed with Gord. We have wild remote rivers with Don and site visits at crazy high altitude with David. It begs the question, do any of you know how to take a normal vacation? I don't know. Go try Disney World. All right. This concludes. Well, actually, I want to say one more thing. Give me a microphone, and I'm dangerous. Ed Thompson, he was mentioned earlier tonight as a Hall of Fame member. I want to give a little more color for Ed Thompson, because Ed, we believe, is the only individual who has been at every single Mining Hall of Fame gala event since 1989. Ed, you're an incredible pillar of our industry. We love you. Thank you for being here. Special guy. Okay, that concludes the 2026 inductions. Again, huge congratulations. Let's have one last massive round of applause for our 4 new inductees. Amazing job, everyone. Here's also to the future Hall of Fame members. If you know someone who has had an exemplary career in Canadian mining and made a significant impact, consider nominating them. Our call for 2027 nominations will open this spring. You can submit in partnership with member organizations up on the screen or associate member organizations. So a huge thank you to all of our sponsors. The night is not over yet. We're going to have a nightcap over in room 104 out these doors, and we're going to play a thank you video for Agnico, who's sponsoring the after party, and then let's go get it. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you to our visionary sponsor, Agnico Eagle. Agnico Eagle is a Canadian-based and led senior gold mining company and second largest gold producer in the world. Recognized globally for its leading sustainability practices, Agnico Eagle is a partner of choice within the mining industry and is proud of the prosperity it brings to its employees, their families, and the communities in which it operates. Thank you to Agnico Eagle for hosting tonight's after-dinner networking reception.